Hello, everyone. It's day 14 of 66-day challenge on how to have a productive business in real estate. Wow, 14 days. So that's 14 topics. I hope everybody's keeping up. When you're doing each topic, please make sure that you're updating it. You're adding to it. So this way, at the end of the 66 days, you're going to have a very, very strong plan, formula, systems that you can compete against anybody. You're going to eventually be ahead of the pack. You're going to be setting the market, okay? Setting what, how agents do business, how they follow you, because that's what we are. A lot of us, about 65% of us, are followers. We're sheep. We go on. I mean, we see all these real estate agents that post these properties, these settlements. Oh, I'm going to follow him. Well, he may be doing something that you may not work for you. Like I have this one guy. It's funny. He's in another county, and he literally is putting properties out there, getting it under contract, and he's like, yeah, I'm on. But I do mostly all Zillow ads. Now, that wasn't true at the end of the day. About 60% of his business came from his database, but he was investing close to about like $35,000 a month in Zillow. Yeah, $35,000 a month, right? Now, again, that wasn't true because after speaking to this individual, half of it was paid by a marketing company or a lender or something like that, and half of his half was actually paid by his team lead. So even though his cap system was way different than most of ours, he was giving up a lot. But yeah, even though at the end of the day, the month, $35,000 bill, which he's only paying like maybe a quarter of that, but he's also doing 100% of the work. So you got to add that into the equation. I mean, if the numbers work out for you, hey, that's fine. But if I'm running 20 people a month based on this system and I'm only getting 20 for 25%, as long as that figure works for you, that's fine. But that's not being innovative unless you're looking to downsize some of the things. All right, so this brings us up to today. So today is number 14, is thinking outside the box, okay? So when I first got into real estate, we didn't have the luxury of the internet. We had, like, if we wanted to go look at properties, we had to go to another franchise or another office, look at their book, find out which properties we wanted to see, schedule them up, and then go see them. But we literally had to get in our car, go into another office, look at their inventory, and we do the same thing in our office as well. Now, times has changed. The internet's come about. We have something that's called the multiple listing service. But somebody started that, whether it was a marketing company, whether it was a bunch of agents getting together. Hey, we need to get together at least once a quarter, and how can we make our lives easier? So then when the internet happened, we really had no marketing. Like every time we did a listing presentation, we would have our comparables, we have our numbers, but we had no fluff, and we would have to create this fluff, like, to add color to it. Hey, hey, this is what our franchise does. This is what my team does. Okay, great. So then systems came about, and one of them was eNeighborhoods at that time. eNeighborhoods was basically putting the icing on the cake. So when we had our comparables, instead of 3 sheets or 4 sheets of the properties and the info, they dialed it up. They made a nice map, green for active, red for settled, yellow for under contract, and they basically made it look nice for people to say, oh, wow, yeah, I do like this, graphs and all this stuff. So then fast forward, we have lock boxes. They're a typical lockbox that, like, if you go into Home Depot, it's combo. Well, now they're getting all creative. Now they have electric Supras, okay? So I'm just giving you an idea of timelines of, everything's going to change. Everything has to evolve. So if you're that person who was selling real estate in the 80s and 90s and you're doing the same practices, you can be successful, but you're not going to be as successful as what you were because you're going to lose that business. You got to be up to date on the technology out there and also see what everybody's doing. Okay? So nobody comes out of the gates leading the pack. The pack is all going. Now, where the pack separates and where the pack follows the leader, that depends on what you're doing and is that shiny object really shiny? And then when I catch up to that shiny object, is it really working? So to give you a perfect example, the guy with the Zillow, I pay $35,000. I make over $200,000 GCI, for that month. Shiny object, right? If I'm making $200,000, I'm spending $35,000 every month for the year. But when I look at that P&L or when I look at that expense report, I may say to myself, "Nah, this ain't for me. This ain't for me." So you want to think outside the box, but you're only 25% of your business should be doing that. Maybe 14%, maybe 15%. You don't want to dive too much into it because it's a huge risk, okay? Stay with what works, okay? Everybody should have a 135. It's basically for your lead sources. At the end of each year, you need to look at where your business came from. That's the most important. And I guarantee you, probably about 60% of you are going to say that 60 to about 75 or maybe more percent came from your database. Now, your database includes a lot of people. Your database includes your friends, family, past clients, referrals from these people, lenders, anybody who you're doing business with, anyone that you thought that needed to be in your database. That's where most of your business is coming from. And it should. 60 to 75% of your business should come from there. Now, your new business, that is where you want to get somewhat risky. All right. Now, your main lead sources in real estate are expired listings for sale by owners and open houses. Now, are there others? Oh, sure. You can do a geographic farm. You can go after estate attorneys, all kinds of stuff. So what you want to do is also add that little 14% in there and say, let me throw this on the wall. Let me see if it sticks. Okay? You want to do the same thing that you did in day one. You want to plan it out. You want to say, okay, this is my plan. I want to, I'm going to give, I'm trying to think of something good, but I'll give you the geographic farm. We'll do the geographic. I want to do a geographic farm. Okay, what's my goal? Is it listings? Is it under contracts? What is it? All right. So then the plan is I have to have a system on how to touch each person. Okay, great. First of all, I have to get everyone's information. And then what information I don't have after using a data communication company, I have to fill it in. I have to either reach out to these people. So let's say I use a company called MyPlus Leads, and I put in a radius that includes about 300 houses. Whatever information's missing from the name, phone number, email address, or mailing address, I'm going to somehow contact them and get that. Make it, lucrative for them to give me their information, whether it's a giveaway or emails, whatever. So now I have all the information. So now, am I going to call these people twice a month for the whole year? Absolutely not. You're only going to call them like maybe once or twice, maybe 3 times. But you also got to do door knocking. Okay, so you got to have to make sure you have the right supplies. You just don't want to pick a lead source or do something half-assed. You want to make sure you're doing it 100%, and that's where the system comes in at. So when we did our geographic farm, first we drove our area. We drove our area and say, yes, this is our home base. This is where we want a lot of our business to come from. Okay, so not only did we compile everyone's information, so that first month we were probably missing about 35% of the information, but I guarantee you within the next 90 days we had 100% where they were off. If we didn't get their information, they didn't contact us, or we didn't contact them, they were out. And I think we had about like 300 some people in our geographic farm. And we had a system. We didn't do door knocking during the winter. We planned it right. We did door knocking from Mother's Day all the way up until about Halloween. That was our last one, because on our door knocking, especially for Halloween, we always leave a contribution. So we ordered these Halloween bags, put pamphlets in there, make sure your kids are safe, wear bright clothes, reflectors, flashlights, walk with a buddy, inspect the candy, all that good stuff. Now, of course, we also would add something about real estate in there, but we would go door knocking and put these on door handles. Now, you're probably saying to yourself, well, Mike, what happens if they don't have any kids? Well, they probably know of kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews. They can give that to somebody. But yeah, not everybody's going to use it. But the whole point is not for them to use it, for them to remember you. Again, this goes back to part of branding and, keeping your name in their head. So this is what I'm getting at. Those activities 2 times a month, whether it's an email, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a drop by, whatever, you have to make it informative for them to engage in it and to respond back to you. Okay? Also, thinking outside the box, you want to look at stuff that maybe people have succeeded in the past and you don't see that anymore. Okay? So, not to toot someone's horn, but I'm actually going to name a franchise out there. And they actually took the old way of selling real estate, added technology for today, and they're killing it. So you guys, since January, have probably been seeing commercials for a company that's 72 Sold. I am a member with them. 72 Sold is a great technique. It's not the traditional way of selling real estate, even though it is, because the traditional way was that's the way it was back then. But the way of selling real estate now has definitely changed from 3 years ago, from 7 years ago, from 10 years ago. So if anybody remembers buying or selling real estate in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you're going to get this. Who had the leverage? The listing agent and the seller. 100%. Always. You can't prove me wrong. Can't. If you're a buyer's agent, you're showing a buyer, you're basically begging that agent to accept your offer. You have no leverage whatsoever. Unless you overprice the property or it's in a saturated market where you are not competitive. But if your listing is competitive, you have the leverage. Now let's fast forward to today. Does the listing agent have the same leverage as they did before? Absolutely not. Because you know why? Because companies like Zillow, Trulia, all these other websites, they're stealing your money. They're stealing your information. If I have a listing back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, my brokerage gets it. That's it. Nobody else is allowed to advertise my property. Nobody even knows about my property. I put my for sale sign out there. I call the Northeast Times. I put my ad out there. All the leads are coming to me. Buyer leads, whatever. Everything's coming to me. Agents are saying, hey, can I get into your property? Hey, can I do an open house for you? I'm the king of the castle. It's mine. Well, let's fast forward to today. And this is where people, I'm not knocking these companies. They got innovative. They are like leading the pack because the first one wasn't Zillow. I think it was called Trulia or Realtor.com. And then they started, hey, wait a minute, this system works. We're going to do it even more. We're going to do it even better. And that's what basically Zillow does. Zillow promised the MLS, hey, we're not going to get into the real estate industry. We're not going to sell real estate. But if you remember 5 years ago, they got caught with their pants down when they started buying all these properties and they got whacked. But what they're doing is they gained access to all the MLSs in this country and are stealing your information. They're stealing your listing information. They're giving you credit for it, but it's all the way at the bottom in a fine print. Oh, listed by Coldwell Banker, blah, 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 blah. Right? But yet, all their information is big print up on top. Want to schedule a showing? Here you go. And then when you schedule a showing, they contacted 3 buyer's agents and made them pay a monthly fee to be put on there. So let me get this straight. I have a listing. I have to put it into the MLS to be compliant with my board. I have to play fair with everybody else. But yet then there's this for-profit company stealing my information, not giving me any credit except for my little blurb, putting it out there, advertising the property, and some of these guys are putting a Zillow estimate. I'm like, when the hell is Zillow in your property? But guess what? It's a $1 billion company. They're doing it. These agents are paying $35,000 a month, and they're doing it. They're running around like little sheep. These people are not being innovative. They're not thinking outside the box, because if they were, there would be no companies like Zillow and other. They'll be run by realtors. So what we need to do as an agent, a team, franchise, you need to think outside the box. Okay, stick to what works. Stick to what works. Go to tech events. Go to training events. Go look at those shiny objects. Go over there. But before you bite the bait and get on the hook, make sure you research it. Make sure you see that it's the right deal. Okay. Now to get back to the 72 sold, I know I got a little bit off topic, but what they did was they took the power of the listing agent and brought it back to today. Well, you're thinking to yourself, well, Mike, they still got Zillow. Zillow doesn't play a factor. Well, you got to put it on the MLS. I'm putting it on the MLS. But Mike, the buyer's agents, they're gonna get your leads. No, they won't. Not if you do it right. The whole purpose, I'm not going to explain the whole system, but it basically keeps the leverage to the listing agent, to the seller. But you're saying, hey, Mike, you're not playing fair with everybody. No, I'm playing fair, but my job is to my client, whether it's a fast settlement, whether it's no contingencies, whether it's more money. I work for them. As long as I'm fair to the public, I'm okay. But I don't cater to the public unless they become a client of the Mike Fitzpatrick team with Keller Williams. I owe them nothing. I owe them, honesty, and you're going to have it. You're going to get your showing, but it's going to be on my terms. So what I'm going to be doing, and just like all the other properties we used to do in the past, we used to advertise the property on the MLS, but there's no showings. We create an urgency. And some of these, it used to be called active no-show. Now it's called coming soon. Name it whatever you want. But you're advertising the property beforehand, okay? Then we also would, on the first day, we do an open house. Some of the 72 people don't do the open house, and they should, because that's another way of creating urgency, okay? When we're at the open house, who do we represent? We represent the seller, right? Okay, but for that day, I don't represent the seller. I represent the house. My job is to create urgency. Okay. Of course, indirectly, I want as many buyers leads so I can feed my team and get them out there and get them a house. But my main goal is to create urgency with this house. So when somebody comes in, now you got to remember this property was advertised for about 4 days. So we do get blind offers in. And that person who walks in and is like, oh, I don't think this house is worth $300,000. I'm like, hey, that's great. I'm sorry you wasted your time. There's probably some more open houses you can go to, but I just want to let you know, I have 20 people going through here today. I've had 15 people contact me within that 4 days, and I also have 2 offers on my table. So there you go. I'll talk to you later. And you're going to let these showings go on for 4 days. Now, you're not going to have the open house for 4 days. It's just that one day to set the precedence. And that every single agent that schedules a showing, you're creating that urgency. You're selling that property. You're not begging them for an offer, but you're saying to them, hey, there's an offer deadline. On that 4th day, we are stopping showings. Nobody is getting in. We're taking the lockbox off. And on that 5th day, we're going to review the offers. Now, we may not counter you. We may not come back and say, you know what, we want a best and final. We may just take one property, so send in your best and final. And I'm not going to get into what happens after that because that is the secret ingredient of 72 sold. But I'm going to be honest with you, and you can check this online. Since I've been with 72 sold, I've probably seen an increase, probably 25%, anywhere from 14 to 25% in my offers, and the agents that are willing to work with you. It's definitely different prior to that, and it's good. And this is what this company did. They basically they didn't create a whole new system. They took one system, changed it around a little bit, put some technology into it, and there you go. All right. So I know we went a little bit into this, but it's important that if you're growing a team, if you're growing a business, you got to throw something out there every once in a while because now you're setting the trend. Okay. Now I'm not saying, hey, we got to cut our value. Absolutely not. Never cut your value. Your value is what your value is. Okay? Don't take the easy way out. Plan it out. Try to break it. Have systems for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? And Q&A it, you know? So you got to be innovative. You got to look for the new shiny object. Don't be a pack follower, okay? All right, I'll talk to you later. Any questions about real estate, banking, title, or coaching, give us a call at Mike Fitzpatrick Team at 267-549-2505. Talk to you later.